I just pressed start recording so that we, like catch everything. It's not like I don't have a super formal anything really. But I was so sort of like, I don't know, um, riveted by our conversation that I wanted to continue it and maybe like make some content out of it or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, So I had asked you previously about those like different questions, and I know that, or I think from like what I've heard and seen, that you yourself have had some sort of like frustrations around streaming.
Yeah. I mean, I think most streamers go through the phase of like, why am I doing this? Am I
Yeah.
doing this for myself to build a community? And people get stuck. Oh, I don't know what games to play. I don't know if I'm having fun. And so I had to go through that whole where it's like I had to ask myself, why am I streaming? Why should I stream rather than just playing video games and just hit the start live button? There has to be more to it.
Totally. Yeah, there's so many things in what you just said, like so many different facets of like what streamers go through of like why am I streaming and like just playing video games versus something else, like so many different like parts that I want to like look at and talk to you about. So like
Yeah.
what did you like you like just recently came back from like a break, right?
Yeah, it was a pretty good break, like a few months. It'll be like on and off like streams. They're nothing consistent. So I feel like I didn't count it as like a real content creating. It was just me
Sure.
sharing live. Like basically I'm just sharing my games. That's it.
Right. And what did you find like in the soul searching that you did? Like what kind of things did you find about why you like streaming and why you want to stream and all that sort of thing?
Actually, I remember I was at work and I have a journal. I had a streaming journal for the longest time,
Yeah.
and I have my logo in front. And I finally looked at it, and I remember I put a Bible verse in there for a reason. And the Bible verse goes, "Iron sharpens iron, like one person sharpens another." And that was, and it reminded me that was the core of my stream is to help each other.
Hmm.
Either grow as a gamer, grow as a content creator, or just grow as a person in general.
For sure. And say the quote
Yes.
one more time.
Uh, Iron sharpens iron as one person sharpens another.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So like your whole sort of like the sort of like core of your stream is helping others essentially.
Yes.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, and I think that like in a lot of the um like research on content creation that I've done, I've heard successful people talk about how a big issue right now, and I think I even talked about this in our previous conversation that happened on stream. But like a big issue right now is like selfish content creation, where like people just want to create in order to
Mm-hmm.
like grow and get big and etc. But they're not making content for anyone. They're just making content because they've seen it done and want to do it themselves. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I think that's like you're already it sounds like you're already like you have a natural inclination for that sort of like right path, so to speak.
I mean, I think we talked about this like way before, and I mean, there is a line between you have to be somewhat selfish when it comes to streaming.
Yeah, like all streamers are attention whores for sure. Like
Yeah. Uh, so it's yeah, exactly. Because like if you're, I mean, of course, I mean, if people say they don't like their goal is not to grow as a streamer, they're lying.
right,
You are. That's one of the goals as a streamer
right,
is to grow your community, to grow your content. And so it's like you gotta be somewhat selfish, like what's best for you,
right.
you know. So
Because
like there's nothing
because
wrong
like
with being
the
selfish, but
yeah, but like the hope is that you're building things in such a way that like what is best for you is also best for your community, and it like
yes.
it's a mutual benefit.
Yeah.
Cool. And so, like, have you found any sort of specificity in terms of okay, I want to help people with my content, like specificity in terms of like how you want to help people. Like, do you want to help them become better like is there a focus there, like help them become better gamers? Do you want to focus more on like the person aspect, the content creation aspect?
I think right now it's kind of broad to where it's more like content creating and also as a person.
For sure.
I recently changed. I'm doing this thing called All Vibes Welcome.
Okay.
Because I mean, no offense to anybody who does this, but there's a lot of people out there who does like the positive vibes only kind of thing.
Right.
And to me, it's like, what if someone's not having a good day?
Right.
What if someone's going through it?
Yeah.
To me, it's like then you are more than welcome to hang out on my stream.
Yeah.
As long as you're respectful and we don't talk about anybody behind their back.
Right.
But if you want to just vent and that's fine. Like you're not going to bring my stream down with that.
Yeah. We're very much on the same page there, and I'm happy about that because I find that a huge majority of that sort of like positivity culture is like underneath the surface sort of ends up being very toxic and masks all sorts of like nasty stuff beneath the surface that then bubbles up somewhere else in the community.
Yeah, it definitely can be toxic if you depending how you approach the positive vibes.
Right. Yeah, and I'm the same way. Like and it's crazy how pervasive it is because like I've had people who will like pop into stream for a second and they'll say like, hey, like I want to say hi, but I don't want to bring down your stream and I'm really not feeling good today. And I'm like, dude, no, like I want you here as a whole person. I don't want you here as just like this like big smiley face. Like if you're having a bad day, like come talk to me about it and like let me try to help to lift you up a little bit.
Yeah, you don't have to put a mask on just to have fun.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like I don't like this is also in general in life. I don't like people forcing themselves to be something that they're not at the moment.
Yeah. Authenticity is something that you really value. Yeah, I'm with you there too. And so, okay, cool. So helping people, and the focus is much more on like helping people like personally and helping people like in terms of content creation.
Mm-hmm.
And the focus is really not on the gaming aspect of it for you.
No, not right now. I mean, like I'll be gaming like one game for a while, but it's really just something to watch.
Yeah.
And I'll be more interactive, rather than like killing a lot of people for you to come and see my subpar skills online.
Right. Yeah. And I mean that's like I talk about this a lot in my streams that like for me like the game is just like the pretense, like it's this sort of like trick that gets people in, and then once they're there, the real reason that we stay there is to like connect with one another. It's not really about the game at all. And I think to a certain extent you could really argue that for any stream except for like maybe pro gamers, but like even them a little bit, like the community that builds around it, like that's really what people are staying for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, cool. And there are so many things that I want to tap into. So for you, the sort of like big moment that like brought you back and like made you want to sort of like dive into this again was seeing that like Bible verse on the front of your journal.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's funny because it's small, but it's in my logo. It's like it's like, why did that? Yeah. It's like, oh man.
Sometimes small things are like the most impactful. Cool. And so then, what's sort of like the different struggles that you were talking about like like why do I want to be a streamer, like what am I streaming for? How did that sort of like manifest itself throughout your streams, like when you would find yourself like burning out or getting frustrated, like were there some like common symptoms that sort of like went into that would sort of cause that to happen?
It'd be more like after I would stream, and it's like you think about it and just like, why am I doing this?
For
Like
sure.
I was, sometimes it'll be fun, but mostly it's fun because I'm playing with my friends, and I
Right.
don't want it to become that, because I feel like there's nothing wrong with playing with people, your viewers, your community, but if that's, you know, where it's like four people talking at the same time on your stream, and then it's just cluster,
Yeah.
where I believe when you stream as a streamer, you have to be the predominant thing as a streamer.
Yeah.
So everything has to be, it has to evolve around you. Even though how selfish that sounds, it has to evolve around you.
No, totally. Yeah, because I mean, ultimately, like one thing that I was talking to my therapist about content creation at one point, and we were talking about different things, and she said something to me that like it sounds obvious when I say it, but for some reason when she said it, like it was just really impactful for me. She said like you are your community. So like if you dip out or like if you change or whatever, like all of your community is going to reflect that. So like if you're not around, your community doesn't exist. It's gone. It's poof. So ultimately, like there is a bit like we were talking about earlier. Like you sort of have to like maintain this environment that is ideal for you, and then the people who sort of like jive with that environment end up sort of flocking to that and get cozy in that, and then the rest of the people we don't care.
Exactly.
We don't care about them.
Pretty much. And like you said earlier, like about being authentic as a streamer
Right.
and the face of your community, you have to be authentic.
Right.
The people in your community have to see that, and it's like if I know you're faking it, like I'm not gonna stay around.
Yeah.
If I know that, oh, you're just saying this just so I can stay around, it's sometimes it's very obvious
Right.
that some streamers are just saying things for you to stick around when they don't really mean it. And I've
Right.
seen that a couple of times where people are really different when the camera's off.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. The things that go on behind the scenes, like I know for me personally, I've started to like, obviously, like I still very much participate in Discords and things like that, but I've started shutting off avenues of direct messaging, except for like like people can still like email me and things like that. But in terms of like people just being able to like send me a message, like if I'm in the same server or whatever, I've started to shut that down a lot more, because I started finding that I was getting a lot of toxicity through that, and like having to deal with a lot of drama because of that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't interested. So I was like, you know what? I don't see this when I'm not getting DMs, and I just
Yeah, like I said, like when I say about my all vibe, I don't like talking about people behind their back. I'm not gonna do that off camera either.
right.
So like if someone DMs me like having a problem with someone, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, but I think you should handle that with that person,
Totally.
rather than coming to me and we'll gossip about it.
Yeah. And then one of the things that you talked about was like what like what game am I going to play? I know that is a huge struggle for so many like I mean
Yeah.
even really successful streamers are like, I have no idea what I'm going to play today.
Exactly. It's hard.
It is. And so like what have you found a game that like feels sort of like a good niche for you?
Right now, yeah, I'm currently playing Team Fight Tactics, and the goal for me in that game is to rank up to Diamond.
Cool. Is that the highest rank?
And no, the highest rank is like Challenger. But
Oh, okay.
I know that I'm not gonna, that's like I have to play like so many times for that. And
Okay.
usually I'll play a couple games offline, but yeah, that's the goal I have for myself when it comes to the game I'm playing, or like game I choose for the stream.
Cool.
For now, at least.
And was there any particular reason that you chose Teamfight Tactics?
Because I think a new season came out was just recently, and it's something that I can play, but also it's very chill game where I can do a lot of interacting with chat at the same time.
Yeah, because it's hard, like sometimes like with those like first person shooters and things, much harder to interact with chat. But if you have something like you know, like the one of the biggest best examples is like Hearthstone. Like you can like play a card and then have like 5 minutes to talk with chat and everything.
And that's what basically Teamfight Tactics is. Like I'll just play a character and just I have like a minute to wait.
Right, for sure, for sure. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, so it's a game that sort of provided you like an opportunity to be able to interact with your community more, which seems totally ideal. And then I'm curious about your relationship to video games, like before you got into streaming. Like, have you always been really into video games?
Yes, I mean I've always been playing something.
For sure.
There's always a game that I'm playing.
And are you
regardless
pretty?
If I'm streaming it.
Like from what you said, like I want to get to diamond. Like it's not the highest rank, but like it's up there. Like has that always sort of been your MO, where you're like if I'm gonna play a game, I'm gonna get a good rank in it.
Well, it's like, yeah, I mean, like with almost every game I play, I would like to have a goal. You know,
For
like,
sure.
hey, like I want to get, like if I'm playing a shooting game, like I want to at least have this much kills per match.
Right.
Or, you know, it's always, for me, it's much, you know, you're getting, if there's an incentive, you know, a goal, it's much more fun.
Totally. Yeah.
Grind.
Yeah. It's interesting because like for me, I'm sort of unusual in that even though like I am die hard into streaming. Like I just like sink my teeth into it and can't let go. But I've never been a huge video game guy. I always really loved playing board games with my family growing up. And I think that's sort of why I've gravitated to the games that I have, is because it's sort of reminiscent of that. But yeah, it's funny because like people will talk to me, like I'll mention that I'm a streamer to somebody, and they'll be like, "Oh, like what games do you play?" And they'll always mention, like without fail, like some first person shooter that just came out, and I'm like, no, I actually sort of hate those games. I like only play party games, and they're like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah. Well, people don't know that there's a community behind that. There's a big community behind that.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, like that's really what it's all about for me. But I do think, and I sort of struggle with myself because I do think that I've heard a lot that it's important to be good at the games that you're playing. And obviously that's not always true, but I don't know. Like I think that you have a cool advantage in that you are someone who like has that ability sort of like naturally, where you're able to like set a goal in a game and go out and achieve it. For me, like I'm like a sad puppy trying to play a video game. It's just I'm like, what's happening? I press R.
For me, funny thing is like I say kind of like differently when it comes to like skill. For me, it's like I like a streamer who is very knowledgeable about a game.
Okay.
You know, like especially if it's like, let's say you're playing a game and I want to get into it.
Right.
And I'm coming to your streams like, hey, I'm gonna ask you all these questions about the game, and if you like, and like you're helping them out, like, oh yeah, this and that. You know, you have to be good, but like you're telling me all this info, and it's like it's awesome. Like I want to come back, you know, and just tell you like, oh man, I did this, I did that.
Yeah.
You know,
that's really interesting. So like not necessarily you don't necessarily need skill. You just need knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting.
So even with shooters, it's like with Call of Duty right now, like people are saying, oh, like what guns are you using? What's your loadout? You know, I'm using this. I like this. But people are using
for these
this.
reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm not the best, but at least I know what's, you know, going on in a certain game, like what people are using. And
yeah, and I'm getting like in all the different areas that we're sort of landing during this discussion, like I'm definitely getting like a really big like value in education from you, like that you really value being able to sort of like provide education for your community, and in other streamers you value when other streamers can sort of like provide you with knowledge or education.
Yeah.
And so like is that sort of like as you continue to sort of like build out, is that one of the like specific ways in which you really see yourself like providing help for your community, is like educating them in terms of like you know, sort of like mental health stuff and like you know, game knowledge and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I want to get there, definitely.
Cool.
You know, I remember when I started streaming, I went to all these different streams, and you know, it's I remember my pastor would always say, you know, chew the meat and spit out the bone,
Right.
which like made like, you know, you see all these things on other streams, and like you pick what you like,
Right.
you know what I mean, and you see what, you know, what works for them, but also think about what works for you.
Yeah.
Not not everything's gonna work for you that works for other people.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so if I could provide something where it's like, oh man, okay, that's what you're doing in this game, or oh, that's how you set up your stream. You know, is
Yeah.
that what you're doing? You know, if you take at least one thing out of all that, then I think that's a good day.
Totally.
It's a good
Yeah.
day stream.
And I think that that's an ideal like learning perspective in general. Just that like you sort of take pieces from everything that you touch, and then you build something for yourself out of those different pieces. Like it's not like copying or stealing. It's like it's an amalgamation of all of the different influences in your life.
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm curious about like I'm trying to think how to even phrase it. I'm curious about where you see like if you had your fantasy stream, what like what that would sort of look like for you. Like you've made it, you're a huge content creator. You can sort of like make the content that you want to make. What different like platforms do you have? What kind of things are you doing?
Let's see.
And it's so like I know that that's a huge question. So like, and I didn't prepare. I'm just sort of like like going.
Yeah, no.
So take yeah. Go ahead.
One thing I would like, if I was big and like an influencer,
Yeah.
I would like to have community days, and playing all different types of games with my community, and we're just all having fun. And even though I like thinking about it right now, I was like, oh, how am I gonna like switch out with people, But it's that's what like one thing I want to do, and just people being in stream, having fun. But as a fantasy stream,
because that's sort of just from what you're saying, that's sort of your roots, right? That's where you started, is playing with a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
And that like that was your stream. And honestly, I think that's a really good place to start, because otherwise what can happen is like you're just playing a video game by yourself, and you don't have a whole lot of energy to vibe off of because people aren't in your stream yet. And so having other people's energy is like a really sort of nice place to start. So it sounds like what you're saying is like I'd like to have that as sort of like a piece that I keep in my community. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like honestly, like where I want my stream to get to is where they can feed off me as much as I can feed off them.
Yeah. And you don't feel like it's at that point yet.
Not yet, no.
Okay. Like you don't feel like they can feed off you as much as you feed off them, or vice versa?
I think for both in a way. It's like, it's like I'm still, I guess, building my community.
For sure.
So I'm not at the point where it's like I'm having all these let's see. There's a bunch of people putting input to my stream. It's more like just people just hanging out right now. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with these people hanging out.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind some constructive like input at the end of the day.
That one I really feel. That one I know what you mean, because the tough part about the kind of communities that streamers seem to build is that they are like, to use a phrase that I wouldn't normally use, but it feels very apropos here. Like, God bless them. Like, they are just the heckin' the supportiest communities ever. But the frustration that comes from that is that when you go and you're like, hey, could I get some feedback? They're like, you're doing amazing. And you're like, okay, I know that you really like my stream, but could you just tell, what could I do better, please? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you ask, like, so what do you think I can do different? It's like, no, man, your stream is great. I love being in there. And I was like, that's awesome. Thanks.
That's awesome. But only 5 of you think that, and you're the 5 that are sitting here. So could we come up with some ideas to maybe? Yeah, I totally get that. I totally get that.
And there really isn't a wrong answer when you ask for criticism.
Right.
It's just like, if that's how someone feels, and that's how someone feels.
Right.
Regardless if you take it or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love something.
Yeah. And that's something that I've really struggled with too, especially because I've always had a hard time, and this is probably like a weakness of mine. I've always had a hard time when I ask for advice, not just with streaming but with anything, where when people give it to me, it's usually something that I've already thought of and like worked through. And so it's very hard to find people that I feel like I can reliably go to and like ask for help. And it's isolating. And I get, just like from what you're saying, it sounds like that's sort of true for you too. And so like finding, and maybe it's not directly your streaming community. Maybe it's sort of like a side community that's express purpose is to like help you grow and help provide you feedback and that sort of thing. But finding a community where you're able to get that feedback, that I think it's called feedback because you feed on it, right? Like it helps you to grow. Yeah. It seems vital and seems incredibly hard to find, especially in the current like streaming ecosystem, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to find someone who can be blatantly honest, and to the point where like it could get annoying, but you're at the end of the day, you're gonna really appreciate what just like in life, like the good friends you have is the one who are telling you the truth, regardless if you like it or not.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what this thought came to me, like I'm gonna start restructuring my mods where like I want mods where, I mean, of course, to moderate my channel, but also to give me feedback at the end of the day. Like, at this point in your streams, this happened, kind of weird,
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I've had sort of a long journey with mods. And one of the things that I think that I always understood in a certain way, and I'm changing my perspective on it just recently because of something that I heard, and I really like the new perspective, and that is, like I used to think that mods were sort of there, obviously because like they were very like loyal viewers and everything, but then also like to perform the function of like moderating the channel, and what I heard recently that I really like, it was from the same guy that I sent you that video for, Devin Nash. He said the point of moderators in a stream is not to moderate your channel. They can do that, absolutely, but that's not their purpose. Their actual purpose is to like exemplify the kind of viewer that you want in your stream. And those are the people who should be your mods. Because when people like people don't think about it consciously, but when people see like those status symbols like sub badges and moderator swords and that sort of thing, it creates a definition for your community, and people will follow that. And if they don't, like just like we were talking about before, like they leave, they get out. And so like I've just recently really been thinking about like, okay, like if I wanted to choose the people who like who do I think is a good representation of my community, and looking at those people as mods, because until just recently I don't have any mods in my channel. I moderate my own channel because I just don't need mods. I can do it myself. But given that idea, given that concept, it really like sort of switched the perspective for me.
That's very interesting. I might have to take that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, because like the reason that I brought it up is because it sounded like you had basically discovered that yourself without having to watch a YouTube video. Like you had figured out like I need to that thought that just occurred to you was like, I need to make the mods in my stream the people who are going to like tell me what's what, which is what you want in your community. You want your community to be able to give you feedback just like you educate you, just like you educate them.
Yeah, I remember our start stream, I thought mods were like the loyal viewers, people who show up all the time and stuff like that. But now, Twitch, not now, but they introduced the VIP badge, which is great.
Right.
And, that could go to loyal viewers. And from what you said about, how the mod should be the people who should really be an example of what your community should be like.
Yeah.
That's a very good thing to think about while choosing a mod.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was really fascinating. I fangirl every time I watch those videos. Well, cool. I wanna get into some of the really like deep juicy stuff that we were getting that we were talking about. My question is, I think that we've answered one of the questions, which was like what are you creating content for?
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the things I want to focus in on a little bit is like who are you creating content for? Like what kind of person? I guess really what I'm asking is like, other than being able to provide you feedback, like what does a enjoyable viewer for you feel like? Because I think it's different for every streamer.
That's a question that's, oh, you gotta think about that.
Yeah, and I am a rude interviewer and did not prepare questions and did not. So if there are any questions that you're like, I would have to get back to you on that one, just let me know. That's totally fine. I just these are sort of it's just all sort of coming out of the conversation for me.
I think one of the things I like about a viewer is someone who's respectful, but at the same time authentic about who they are.
Yeah.
And because like I want to like you and welcome you as a person, not of who you're trying to be, but of actually what kind of gamer are you, or what kind of viewer are you.
Right.
And it won't, that's not going to happen in one stream. That's going to happen over time. And but man, that's a really loaded question. That's
I just like one of the things that that I think that I struggle with is like when I find somebody that I connect with, like all of my favorite things in life are all about connection. And yet I'm like a hardcore hermit. And I think that the reason why is because I'm so often like disappointed by my experiences of connection that I sort of want to like limit my connections to those that I really enjoy, to those connections that I really enjoy, and like on the most consistent basis. So that being said, when I find someone that I connect to in my community, it's very hard for me not to sort of like latch on and try to and I think that what ends up happening when I do that, when that happens, is it's not a good look. Like, it doesn't feel good for the person who's being latched onto, and ultimately, like, it's not good for me either. And so what I've been doing recently is I call it the crowd surfing principle. And basically, what the idea is that I have a constant awareness in my mind that my community is going to shift. People are going to come in and out of it just almost constantly. Both, like during a stream and also just in general. Like, people are going to like permanently leave the community and people are going to, come in. And so the crowd surfing principle is that if you just like lay on your back and let your community sort of carry you, then as people shift in and out, it's not as painful because you're not like leaning entirely on one person, so that when they walk away, you just like fall flat on your face, And I'm bringing all this up because it's just from what you were talking about like building finding like your ideal viewer. Have you ever struggled with where like the like you I don't know how to phrase it, like you want to connect too badly with particular people and it sort of like blows up?
Yeah. I mean, I remember starting out as a streamer. I was, really connected with these certain people.
Yeah.
And like it felt great. And it's like, oh yeah, like so I wanted them always in my stream. I always,
Right.
Even off stream, and but also you have to realize like some of these people are streamers too.
Right.
And so they get, and like you want them to help you out, and just connect with them. It's like, oh, let's play this game today and all that stuff. And it's like, but they have their own thing going at the same time.
Right.
And then just know that, yeah, like you said, like people will always come and go. And even with the people you want to stay, sometimes they're not going to stay.
Yeah.
Because we all have different paths that we choose.
Yeah.
And
just like one thing that you brought up that really resonates is like people, viewers or streamers, regardless, like they have their like their own stuff to do and their own tastes and preferences and all that sort of thing. And so like I often fall into the trap of like, well, what, why didn't they show up for this? But then it does, there's some sort of like principle there about how you always feel like the center of your universe, and it's really hard to like, and I think streaming in a lot of ways is a practice in that, because you are your community, like you are what makes your community, and you also have to acknowledge that what comes in and out of your universe is constantly changing and shifting, and that's hard.
Yeah. And now I'm thinking about your question, like what's one of my thoughts of an ideal viewer is someone I can really relate to at more as a person than as a gamer.
Okay.
Because I think those people will stay around more.
Yeah.
Because then, like, I've noticed, like, there's something, like, I remember when I was playing Fortnite for a while, a lot of people that used to come by don't come by no more because I'm not playing that game.
Right.
But then I do have people who stick around because, I connected them as a person. They know me, like, what kind of football team I like. They know that I go to church, all that. But then we're still gamers. We might not play the same game at the moment, but you're still there, like, hey, talk about life.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my really goals, is to really connect with my viewers more on a personal level rather than a gaming level. Right. Gaming should just be like icing on the cake.
Yeah, yeah, and it's tough because the way that Twitch is built, it's built around category. Like
Yes.
that's how people find your stream, like
Yeah.
statistically. And so, yeah, like building up that base, while also like acknowledging that people are just going to be constantly like shifting in and out of your community, and finding some sort of consistency in that, I think is
The
like one.
challenge.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why streaming is so hard, is because it's this constant balancing act between the two.
I think that's what Discord really is for. Is to show your community the different sides of you.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're playing one game, you're gonna be focused on that game most of the time, especially if
Right.
it's a competitive shooter game.
Right.
But then offline, you're in your you're very active in your Discord. You see like, oh, he likes this.
Right.
Oh, this streamer likes that. He's really into this.
Yeah.
He likes this song. He likes these movies. And it's like, so they get to know you, a little bit more on Discord, which I think
Totally.
is awesome.
Totally. Absolutely. Were you streaming before Discord came along?
Yes, I did not. I discovered Discord through Twitch.
That's awesome. And so, how, like, was there a period of time where you were streaming before you like had a Discord, or like knew about Discord?
Yeah, I remember when I first started streaming, I did not have a Discord.
Yeah.
I did not have this. I had no idea what it was. Back then, I was using like Ventrilo, and it
Oh,
was
so
just
but
voice
like
comp.
you had like a place that your community could come to like connect with you off stream, even before you knew about Discord.
No, I didn't. I
Oh,
did
okay.
not, because Ventrilo was just voice comms. There's nothing you could type. It was just some place where like, hey, I'm playing this game. Let's go talk. Let's go here to do comms.
Got it.
But when it comes to like a community, like no, I didn't have one. It's more like, hey, I'm hanging out in this other person's Discord rather than having my own.
For sure. Yeah, because I remember there was a long period of time where I was streaming before Discord came along, or before we discovered Discord, and the like I can remember back when people were just like names in chat and text lines. Like, I didn't know what their faces looked like. I didn't know what their voices sounded like. I didn't know much about them beyond, like what we learned in chat. And then Discord came along, and all of a sudden, like now, like I know most of my viewers' faces. I know most of their voices. Like, it's
Hmm.
just such an incredible like deepening of the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, Discord. Honestly, people don't. I don't want to. Okay, I'm trying to rephrase this where I'm not like busting like or just talking crap about people. Uh, but I see it as like a lot of people have big Discords, but they're not very active.
Right.
And it's like at the same time as I get it because the community is very active, but you're also the face of the Discord. You're also the face of the community. I personally I leave Discords when the person is not active.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting that you found that to be the case a lot, because I've found that if I'm not active in my Discord is dead. Like, there, it's not
No.
it's not gonna last long.
Yeah, no, my Discord was dead for a while.
Yeah. And so you were able to when you sort of like came back from your breaks or hiatuses, or whatever, you were able to sort of like breathe new life into like the different parts of your community, like your Discord and your channel and things like that.
Yeah, like my mindset on it was like let me tackle one thing at a time when it comes to Discord. Like right now I'm posting every Sunday. I'm gonna share my screen, post football games because I'm a big sports fan.
For
And so
sure.
if people want to hang out, they feel free. 'Cause a lot of my viewers are sports fans as well.
Yeah.
And so that is one thing I'm tackling right now. It's like I want to make it constant. So and then just saying like some kind of like high message, some kind of message, that a genuine message each day in general chat, like, hey, I hope everyone's having a great weekend. These are my plans for today.
For
all
sure.
that. You know, something a general open-ended question that people
Yeah.
could respond to.
Yeah, it's cool as you continue talking about like your interests in your community. Like one of the things that I did when I went from snake tech to tentacle tech, is I was like, okay, like I have a lot more experience now. Like I wanna build this channel right. And so like one of the things that I did was I made um, like a target viewer, like the type of person that I would want to attract into my community, and by extension, like I would build my stream in such a way that it should attract that type of person. And so as you continue to talk, I'm getting more and more like clues as to like what your sort of like target viewer looks like, and it's really cool. It's really cool to sort of like build that picture in your head of like okay, like so like a lot of my community is like into sports, and a lot of my community is into like competitive games where they have like rankings and things like that, and like just all these different pieces that come together to sort of build. And like my community is people who like really value education, really like like are looking to learn and looking to like educate as well. All these different pieces coming together is really cool. There's something I wanted to ask you about, but it left my mind. Oh, got it. I got it. Yeah. I knew it would come back. I know for me when things sort of collapsed for me, because you know that I've taken way too many hiatuses. I don't like talking about it. But when things sort of collapsed for me, when I came back, there was definitely this feeling of like oh crap, like this thing that I built is in like it's just rubble now. And it was really overwhelming for me thinking about trying to like rebuild from that rubble. What was your experience like in coming back from your breaks?
Oh man, same thing. I remember when like my high point of my streamings, I was pulling in like 30 plus viewers,
It's
and that
incredible.
was like, I was like, oh man, this is awesome. It's a great feeling.
Yeah.
But then, real life stuff happens where I took a hiatus for about a month, and a month turned into 3 months,
Yeah.
and then and coming back, yes, man, it feels like you are really kind of starting from the beginning.
Right.
You do have people who follow you, will be there. You know that there's certain people that will be there,
Yeah.
but as it's that consistency. Like people don't know where you're at right now. Your followers don't know where, because you've been gone so long.
Right.
So you have to, now when I think about when I came back, I was like, I gotta tackle it one step at a time.
Right.
That's why I need to have a somewhat consistent schedule where I can follow it, and that's what really it is. Like, when I create my schedule, I don't think about my viewers, to be honest. I think about myself.
Right, because you have to be able to maintain it ultimately.
Yeah. Like, oh, I can't watch your stream because it's at this time. I was like, well, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. This is the best I got.
Yeah. And so it's like, and just doing one thing or two things consistently, slowly, to build up, and then you'll get back to where you are. I may not have the same viewership, but at least that feeling of consistency. It's such a great feeling, like knowing that, okay, this is happening. You have to find something really that will motivate you to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the sort of thing that you're referring to, like I've had the same experience, and I imagine it's a somewhat universal experience, that when you find something that works for you, you just sort of fall into like a groove, and it just flows. Whereas like before you find that, it feels very like staccato, like it feels very like you're constantly having to sort of like push against something rather than something just working and flowing for you.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Interesting.
And it's like playing a video game for the first time. There's a lot of things that coming out of nowhere, but the more you play it, the more the same level you're playing, you know where everything's coming. It feels much smoother, like the more you do it,
Right.
how consistent you are in it. And so I think that's where, it's very cliche, but it's really that first step. That first step is you have to commit to that first step.
Right.
And it's, take one step at a time. Nobody, we, as streamers and as people, we're the hardest critics to ourselves.
Totally.
Yeah. And so, but people, people don't look, people don't see that. They don't see like, oh man, he's, he has all these plans in his head. No, they're just waiting for your stream.
Right.
And just give them something consistent. It doesn't have to be like 10 things,
Yeah.
Like, oh, I gotta do a giveaway here. Ooh, I'm gonna do a community night here. Like, no, stick with something, build it up, and then you can start another thing.
Right. Once you find comfort in this thing, then you can start building on top of it. Once you
Exactly.
have a good foundation. And so I'm curious about when during your time where you were at sort of like your peak, like what did that look like? Like what game were you playing, and like what was your community like? Because it sounds like what brought you away from that was not like burnout at all, but in fact it was just peripheral like life stuff happening.
Mm-hmm. Peak, I was playing Destiny a lot,
Okay.
and a lot of people knew I was a Destiny streamer. I was like, oh, Sharkey924, he's playing Destiny, And then I remember you would see other streamers and other viewers while you play. It's like, oh, hey, it's you. Do a wave. And then so when people came to my stream, they knew exactly what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's like, okay, it's so and so's day, so it's reset day. So Sharky's probably gonna do all these do all the bounties today and stuff like that.
Right.
And then people come in, it's like, hey, can I join the room for join your party? It's like, yeah. And so, that was a constant thing. That was what people expected. And they expected it because that's what I was providing.
Yeah. And that comes back to that like consistency concept that you're talking about, which like every advice streamer ever is like you gotta have consistency. Like it's just everyone across the board says like, if you don't have consistency as a streamer, it's never gonna happen.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's not some kind of like advice coming out of someone's ass.
Right.
It's honestly true. Like on the weekends, I know Tech is gonna be streaming Jackbox. It's just a given,
Yeah.
And then if you weren't, I would know that you would say something on your Twitter.
Right.
And so it's that consistency, like knowing like a viewer, like I like that, like knowing that, okay, this person's coming out this time, they're going to play this.
Right.
Or like even like on Twitter, like, oh, they're streaming, but they're playing a new game today,
Yeah.
And they announced it. So it's like, that also gets to being active on social media. That's a whole different subject.
Totally.
As a streamer.
Yeah, absolutely. So networking is a behemoth. What? And I'm happy to move on to networking, but there's one other thought that I had, which was what? It'll come back to me. Hold on. So we were talking about Destiny. Oh, that's it. When you came back, is the reason that you decided to not go back to Destiny because like Destiny had you saw that it like died out a bit, or were you just really into this new game? Like what drove that decision?
It was more that me personally wasn't enjoying the game anymore. It had nothing to do with community. It had nothing to do whether other people were playing it or my friends were playing it. It was me personally, I wasn't enjoying the game.
For sure. That makes sense. And you had found this new game. It's Teamfight Tactics, right?
Yes.
Cool.
And I don't like when I give advice when it comes to streaming, like what game to play. I was like, well, people don't want to watch this game, but you want to play that game.
Yeah.
Why not play it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't.
I think.
Why play something you don't like on stream?
I think it's like an intersection. Like there's an intersection between what you want to play and like what you can actually grow off of. Like if you desperately want to play League of Legends, that's great, but you're gonna have a real hard time. You're gonna have a real hard time building up on Twitch playing League of Legends. So like finding that intersection between what you want to play and what you feel like you can grow in is, and I feel like you have sort of a natural sense for that somehow. Like you like for me, I'm a stat slut. Like I just am like constantly like looking at numbers and like, oh, what does this mean? Like, but for you, like I feel like you sort of feel it out. Like it's not that. Like I feel like there are games that you enjoy, but that naturally you just like, yeah, but I'm not gonna stream that. And then you find a game and you're like, I think this is it. I think this is perfect. And it just happens to sort of line up, which is heckin' awesome.
Yeah, as most gamers, like we have a variety of games we like to play.
Right.
You know, if you look at anybody's Steam library, it's filled with games that we've all played and some we forgot, and
right.
But there's always multiple games there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very tough choice whether to play something you really enjoy, but know that you might not grow as much.
Yeah.
Or like you said, that intersection of choosing a game, but at the same time thinking about growth.
Right.
And it's very hard because like to me, like when I advise for people like who really want to grow is if there's a new game coming out that you think that you're really gonna enjoy, I say stick to that game from the beginning to the and keep going.
Yeah, because there's a chance that you might become the streamer for that game.
Exactly, and so that people like, oh man, like, so did you get to this level? It's like, oh,
yeah,
and people will know you for that game, and that game doesn't have a community yet. It's still building.
Right. And that's really what I've been learning recently, is that because of the way that Twitch is evolving and because of there's so many streamers on Twitch now, you sort of have to do that in some way or another. You sort of have to establish yourself as like the authority in some area, and it's very broad what that could be, but you have to find something that like you feel like you know better than like anybody else at. And it doesn't mean you can't, learn and grow still, but that you can, like you were saying, that you can like educate people on and provide something of value from.
Because there'll be a lot of people like especially when a new game comes out, a lot of people could be on the fence about that game, like, oh, I don't know, but you could be that guy or girl to be like, hey, they'll be like, hey, so how is the game? Like, what do you think? And you can give the honest, opinion. And that's the best way also to make content for YouTube. It's like, oh, this is how the game started,
right.
Or, some tips and tricks on the game. And
man, you're just like natural. Oh, you're such a natural. I have to research so hard to find this stuff out, and you just get it. Yeah, because that's the other thing that everyone says is that it's no longer just enough to just stream on Twitch. Like you have to diversify your content. You have to establish sort of like a narrative for your stream of like that, like you were saying, like this is what I do, like this is what you can expect, and then your YouTube content provides like sort of the like a more structured version of that story that people can follow and say like, okay, so like this is he's telling me like how the game started, and like now I'm learning like what the best builds are for this character or whatever. And it doesn't have to be about gaming. It can be about pretty much anything you want, but you sort of have to establish yourself as like an expert in that area.
Yeah. Thing is, like, it comes naturally when you enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Because offline, you're gonna be researching about that game. You're gonna be looking at articles and stuff like that. So, and even when you're on stream and someone asks you a question about the game and you don't know the answer, you can find the answer right then and there with that person watching.
Yeah.
And both of you grow in that same,
Right. And then like just sort of coming back full circle, like that thing that you said way earlier in the conversation about like sort of taking a piece of everything that you touch.
Mm-hmm.
Your particular build of the things that you've learned from, like, whether it be a game or whatever, is going to be different from like anybody else's. And so, yeah. And so like that, like you, because I guess it's coming into the what's coming into my mind is like imposter syndrome, like that feeling that I know that I've had of like, okay, I'm offering streaming advice, but like I'm not that successful of a streamer, you know, like I'm doing well, but like compared to a lot of people, like I'm tiny, and so like what right do I have to be like offering advice? But I think that what you were saying is like the particular combination that you form of like your like your philosophy is it's a snowflake. Like there's no one else that is going to have that exact same formula or whatever.
Yeah, there's different. I truly believe that there's different paths to success.
Right.
You know, and when I always give my advice, I always say from my experience.
Right.
Not, like from what I've seen.
Yeah.
People has succeeded doing this. People have succeeded doing that. And I always tell them like, well, sometimes I can't do what they're doing. I don't want to do what this person's doing, but they do some good things that I take for myself. And if that works, then it works. But I'm doing it because it's me. It's what I want.
And by providing like educational content, you end up becoming one of those things that people, like touch and take from. Yeah. So it's a really interesting, like, sort of like, I don't know, like circle of life type.
It is. It really is. It's really a full circle, and people will always feed off people. And that's that's why I put that Bible verse. It's like iron sharpens iron, as one person sharpens another. Because honestly, when it comes to streaming, you cannot do it by yourself.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you'll do a lot of work, but it requires, different people.
Yeah.
Whether they know it or not.
Yeah. If nothing else, it requires like a, huge viewership just to have any sort of traction. Yeah, totally. Well, so there's one half of me that is like, all right, let's talk about social media and that networking and that behemoth. And then the other part of me is like, we have a good hour-long interview. Maybe this is a good place to call it. Okay, all right. I have one question that I'm curious about. That I'm curious to talk to you about is like, what has been your experience? I know that you've been a part of a lot of communities, that are focused specifically around like growing streamers, and they all sort of have their own different tips and tricks, and they have some similarities. But like, what has been your experience with those types of communities?
Man, most of it's not good ones, not good experiences. To be honest, it's, I'm a mod for a community called Lurk Force, honestly, but it's mostly because my friend from high school started it, and it grew big. Yeah. Of course, it had its downfalls, and but he became partner. He became a Discord partner. He did what networking was, whether I wanted, agreed on how he did it and that stuff. Whatever he did, it worked for him.
Right.
But when it comes to like teams and helping, there's the good and there's the bad.
Yeah.
What?
So the part that I'm like you were talking about, like, I don't want to like talk crap. Like, the part that I'm really interested in is like, what have you found? Because I think you have more experience with those types of communities than I do. What good have you found? Because I'm really curious. Like we were talking about, like, it's really hard to find communities where you're able to get feedback and you're able to, you know, like find help growing. So like what good pieces did you find in those communities? Yeah, that's it. That's the question.
For me, it's just a great way to see, you know, to have a pool of streamers to look at, you know, whether you take something from them or not.
It's an easy way to find people like fast.
Exactly, and you know, it's like a buffet, you know, like you
Totally.
nitpick and like, oh, but I like this one more, so I'm gonna come back to this one.
Okay.
So
it provides you like a pool. That makes sense.
Yeah, and you meet. It's easier to meet like-minded people when you have at least a community to actually go to and see, and to talk. Actually, you know, rather than having to create your own like from scratch. There's already a community out there you can join to see if there's like-minded streamers like you,
right?
Who, you know, who you can talk to and stuff. So I think that's one of the best things.
For
also,
sure.
like with when the affiliate came out, I saw a lot of people getting affiliate really quick by joining these teams.
Yeah.
Know? But there's also the bad in that, so I don't want to go in that. But
well,
and also a bad in it.
So, because like, in terms of what we were talking about, of like of finding that community that will, like, you know, give you feedback as a streamer and like that sort of thing. These stream groups, that you never found that in one of those. Is that accurate?
Not exactly. I found not as the team as a whole, but you found people who, you know, because they are streamers,
right?
That will be like, oh, hey, you're doing this. It's like, I'm doing this. What do you think? You know, then it's like, oh man, I'm doing this. You know, it's kind of different. So you kind of like bounce off ideas with one another,
right?
And like, you know. So that's one of the great things about I found it within a team, but not necessarily the team as a whole providing it.
Interesting, and that makes sense. And I guess that's sort of always what I've craved from stream teams like that. Like I just like you, I also have sort of I place education on a very high pedestal. And so I've always craved to sort of have a community that's sort of like focused and based around that, and always had trouble finding any place for that. And your way is sort of like the guerrilla tactics version of that, where like you use this community not necessarily like for what it's for, but for what it can provide for you. And that, like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think that's brilliant. But it's I think that I have a thing about, like, sometimes I want things to be sort of clean in their in their like presentation or whatever, and if I can't find that elsewhere, like I'll try to build it myself that way.
Yeah.
And so, like, I just in with your experience with these teams, I wanted to get some insight from you on, like, things that they have provided that sort of lended themselves to that ideal, which it sounds like from what you're saying is, like, you find people that you connect to within those communities because they do serve as such a good pool, that you can then get that sort of thing from, but never like the sort of overall structure of it being sort of geared toward that.
Yeah, I mean, it also comes down to, like, I know that I'm not gonna connect to every streamer out there,
right?
Especially in the stream team, you know, like, not every content people provide is not gonna be content I want to watch,
right?
You know, and so it's like, okay, just more of a broader statement is there's one thing I don't like about stream teams, or certain stream teams, is where I feel like I have to sell out to be a part of a team.
Ooh, okay, all right. This is getting juicy. Okay, talk to me. Tell me more. What do you mean if you have to sell out?
Like, oh, if you're not supporting these streamers, we're gonna kick you out of this team.
Sure.
You know, and it's not just like, I'm not talking about like this like random streamers. They have a certain group of streamers they want you to support.
Right.
But if I'm going to these streams and I'm not a fan of them, why should I continue to support?
Right. Like, why would you even want someone watching your content that doesn't actually want to watch your content?
Yeah, and so it's like, and some teams are pushing that so hard. And I remember I'm not gonna name names, but I got private messages like, "Hey, yeah, you should take off that tag of the team on you because, yeah, I don't think you're supportive enough." When I've been supporting other streamers in that community, but not the streamers they wanted.
Right. Yeah.
And so, and it's like, a stream team doesn't. I don't want you to feel like you have to sell out in order to grow.
Yeah, and that it's that like that. In having built a couple of like smaller stream teams myself, like that is one thing that is really a struggle. Is the reason that you're building the team is to like help each other grow. Like everyone wants to wants to grow together, and finding the balancing point between like the sort of the very dark end of like hey, if you don't watch these streamers, we're gonna kick you out, and then the very light end of like you can do whatever you want, and then like nobody supports anybody. Like you have to you have to find some sort of like middle structure that works, and that's a big part of what I've been trying to find, and that it's very elusive. It's really hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, it's very hard to find that middle ground where everyone can, grow, but at the same time you don't want to push people out because they're not doing something because they're not viewing me, so they're not viewing me or my friends. Yeah.
Right. And so with Lurk Force, and like obviously, like if we get into any territory you don't want to talk about, please by all means just let me know. But with Lurk Force was my understanding of how Lurk Force works is essentially it's like lurk for lurk. So like you open a window for somebody's stream and keep it up, and then they'll do the same thing for you, so that they don't necessarily have to be watching your content, but they're still sort of like providing you that view, right?
Not really lurk for lurk. It's just like you could choose, who to lurk, and you don't have to. They don't have to look back, and it's not. And there was no incentive for that. But at the same time, in the beginning, I thought, oh, that's a cool idea. But as a streamer, you grow. You want interaction.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I'm always appreciative to those who lurk. I would never say anything bad about them. I know we all do. I lurk a lot. I'll have a stream up, but I'm doing something else. And I can't be as active as as maybe the streamer wants.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, like there's nothing really like bad about Lurk Force. Was it my personal way to do things?
For sure.
But I was there to support, and I was personally just there to support a friend and just to help them create that team.
Right.
But like I said, like every streamer has their own way to do things.
Yeah.
And you gotta find and the only way to find out what really works for you is to see how other streamers do it.
Right. Interesting. And so, man, it's such a this particular thing is such a puzzle for me. I think really I've been trying to figure out this particular thing because I like I said, like I have such a deep desire for connection, for community, and that sort of thing. And I've always had a desire since I started streaming for this particular type of connection, where it's a group that works together to educate each other. Like, I think really that is the main focus, is educating each other, because then from that you grow closer because you're learning from each other, and then you actually want to support each other. But I don't think I've ever found enough people that are committed to that idea to really work to contribute ideas to one another. And so I don't know. I'm thinking about like with your guerrilla tactics, where like you find certain streamers that you connect with and that you get feedback from. Just like, I don't know, like, and that's another thing is the reason that I got all hyped up when you said sellout is because I've been called a sellout a lot. Like seriously, also jokingly, but very, very seriously, by people that just think that I'm like the nastiest, dirty sellout ever.
I don't see that.
Well, I appreciate that.
I personally don't see it.
I appreciate that, but
you're lewd, but not a sellout.
So like, there's always that like caution at the back of, I think, every streamer's mind, of like, I don't want to seem like I'm asking something from you that I shouldn't be asking from you. Like you know, like when someone DMs you that you like don't know at all, and it's like, hey, come to my stream. You're like, excuse me.
Yeah.
But when you make those connections with streamers, like I do have like a desire to be like, hey, we seem to connect really well and have these same sort of like ideas and desires to like be able to educate each other, and I want to build a community full of people like that. But then like asking them that somehow feels like it could be dangerous in some way, that they could interpret it as like, oh, like he's just trying to like recruit me to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest challenge when it comes to that, creating a community where you want to help each other, and I already thought about this, is that you're going to get people who do not think the same way, or not, at least not, maybe like 50-50.
Right.
And they'll have other ways to do it. And for me, as a personal flaw, like, I judge people kind of quickly, and it's a very good, bad thing. And so it's like, oh, he likes to do it this way, but not like, if you're gonna go into that mindset where you're gonna create a community where you're gonna be helping one another, you have to already come into it knowing that not everyone's gonna share every idea,
right?
Or like be welcoming of every idea you have, and you're not gonna be also welcoming to every idea people have for you,
right?
And there will be somewhat, I hate to say it, but there'll be somewhat like little small groups within your community, because more people will relate to other people.
Right.
And but at the same time, it's not an exclusive thing. It's just that you relate to them more.
Right.
But you're still willing to help out the other people too.
Yeah.
But finding that middle ground is hard though.
Well, I've always found the like, I don't know, like clique argument sort of weird, because it just sounds like having friends to me. Like, they're like, well, yeah, but like they don't talk to other people, and they like talk about other people, and I'm like, yeah, that's what having friends is. Like, so yeah, so definitely like your community sort of like sections off to a certain extent, where like there's different sort of subgroups within the community. And I don't have any issue with that. I think that my biggest issue is like, I think it comes back to the idea of, it's really hard for me to find people who can provide things that like I don't already know, or that I haven't already thought of. And that might be closed-mindedness on my end. I might be missing things, and that is one thing that I've noticed with the sort of like crowd surfing principle, is in not latching on to individuals, because I'm just sort of like more open to the entire community and entire picture, I am able to sort of like absorb more in certain ways.
Yeah.
And certain ideas have come out of that I've just been like, wow, like this never would have happened if I hadn't been crowd surfing, so to speak. But yeah, I still really wanna crack that case, but
I mean, you can go into it. You can just
no, I don't even know. Like, that's the thing, is I don't even know. Like I'm working on one right now. Like the Ponzi scheme is my latest iteration, because the reason that it's called that is because one of my friends was talking about, you were a part of EG, right, for a little while. You remember Elemental Gaming? No,
I was not part of EG. No, I was not.
Were you part of FAM?
No, I was not part of FAM.
Oh man, I really thought that you were around for one of those. Anyway, so basically, all these names.
Oh no, I was part of FAM.
You were part of FAM.
I was there
okay.
for. I was part of FAM.
So they've all basically been the same idea, but one of my friends was talking to me about it, and he was like, I mean, what you basically did with EG was you built like, it was sort of like a Ponzi scheme. And like basically it was like, okay, so like you come in and you support these streamers this way, and then you can become one of those streamers this way, and it worked really well. The problem that happened was the sort of payoff for doing these things was that you got like sort of like a voice in leadership in the community, and instead of having a single leader and then like advisors, I had it set up so that all of the leaders were equal. All of the leaders had equal say. And so what ended up happening was nothing ever got done, and the rest of the leadership started to think that sort of like the community was really just sort of like more my community, and they weren't really getting anything out of it, even though like you could look at their stats and they had all risen. But yeah, and so like in my sort of latest iteration of that, which is the Ponzi scheme, which I named because my friend said it was like a Ponzi scheme. So I was like, all right, I'll go for it. I have it set up so that I'm sort of like, like I have like final say on things, but then I'm slowly incorporating people who like, really go out of their way to invest in the community. Slowly incorporating them into the leadership so that they can contribute ideas and things like that. So yeah. I'm talking about all this because I feel like you moderated for a channel that did this very successfully, not necessarily in a way that it sounds like that either of us are crazy about, but that worked. And so I'm fascinated by your wisdom on the subject. But I do sort of want to wrap up. So, are there any things that we didn't touch on that you really wanted to touch on today?
I think one of the really important things about streaming to know as a streamer is that you control the stream. You control how it flows. What kind of vibe, I guess, you want to be in the stream. A lot of streamers don't realize that.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to ban people and time out people that you do not want, even though it's your friends. Like, some of your friends can come there and make like say some whack stuff. It's cool off stream, because you're friends, but you're trying to make you're trying to create this atmosphere.
Right.
And if someone is interrupting it, don't be afraid to pull the trigger. Yeah.
I definitely have also had to learn that. Is it feels very similar to me of like I had this mind shift where when I realized that when I went to a job interview, it wasn't just the interviewer deciding if they wanted to hire me or not, but it was actually both of us deciding if we were a good fit for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that mind shift helped me like so much in my job interviews. And then in streaming, very similarly, just like you were talking about, like, you as a beginning streamer, because it's so hard to get viewers, when you get one, you want to like hold on to it with everything you have, regardless of how horribly they're behaving. And I've found in just sort of like, you know, throwing caution to the wind and saying, you know what, if I'm not jiving with this person, I don't want them around. Number one, a lot of times the person that I like time out for a day or whatever will come back and like improve their behavior drastically. And two, the rest of my community feels a lot more safe and a lot more comfortable because they know that their like leader is taking care of them and making sure that like the ship is safe, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
you know, as like I said, you as a streamer, you have to lead by example.
Right.
And if other viewers see that, oh, he's not gonna allow that, then it's like, okay, you know, either whether other people will agree with it or not doesn't matter.
Yeah.
How you want it to be.
Right. And then you appoint mods to do the exact same thing, to lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool, man. Thank you so much for this. This was really cool, and I I know that I talk way too much for an interviewer.
No, I feel like it was a good back and forth.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I'm really glad that you felt that way. Thank you for doing this with me, and I'm really excited. I'll definitely let you know. Like when I have everything sort of drawn together. I'm not sure how much editing I'm gonna do. I don't usually do a whole lot of editing on my stuff. But I'll definitely let you know when I have it together and when I put it up so that you can see it and check it out.
Yeah, everyone, stay tuned for part 2, social media.
Oh, spicy! I love it. Okay, well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, man.
Bye.
Bye.